Good morning, third grade. We are in our big book reading story this morning. You need to be on page 74. Remember, our essential question is, how can problem solving lead us to new ideas? As we're reading, we're thinking about our biographies, we're thinking about our genre. These are stories about people's life, all right? So these stories, the people did not write themselves, right? Last week we did autobiographies, and that was stories that somebody wrote about themselves. So if I wrote a story about my life, that would be an autobiography. If I wrote a story about Mr. Bauer, fourth grade's life, that would be a biography, right? Because I'm writing about him, not about myself. Okay? So we read about Mary Walker on Monday and her invention of the windshield wiper. Today we're going to read about Elijah McCoy's steam engine. All right? This is an awesome story, so make sure you pay attention. All aboard Elijah McCoy's steam engine. Page 74 of your big reading book. How can problem solving lead to new ideas? Read about Elijah McCoy's idea. Find out how it made train travel safer and faster. Summer days were mowing days in Colchester, Ontario. Elijah McCoy watched his father cut the tall grass. He was waiting for the machine to break. When it did, he jumped for joy. Kind of strange, right? Machine breaks. Elijah jumps for joy. Kind of odd. Elijah was only 6, but already he was good at tinkering with tools. Page 76. Elijah McCoy was born in 1844. His parents had come to Canada on the Underground Railroad. Catch it? There's our setting. We're happening in Canada. He was born in 1844. They didn't talk much about the slave days. Elijah and his 11 brothers and sisters kept them busy. Elijah's mother and father saved every penny they could to send Elijah to school. At 16, he crossed the ocean to study in Scotland. Elijah had a dream. He wanted to work with machines. He wanted to become a mechanical engineer. Right? Engineers fix a lot of things, right? They got to design things, they got to fix things, and Elijah thought he'd be good at that, especially since he liked it when things broke. Page 78. In 1866, Elijah finished school in Scotland. His family now lived in Michigan. One day, a locomotive rolled into the station with Elijah on board. His mind was crackling with ideas. In Michigan, he was going to be an engineer. Elijah went looking for work at the Michigan Central Railroad. "Takes learning to be an engineer," said the boss, spitting at Elijah's feet. "I got ashcat work if you want it. It ain't hard. You bale it. You grease the pig." "Excuse me?" said Elijah. "You shovel coal into the firebox," replied the boss slowly. "You oil the wheels. You oil the bearings. It's not hard." What a letdown. Elijah knew engines inside and out. He knew how to design them. He knew how to build them. He also knew the boss didn't think much of him because he was black. But Elijah needed the work, so he took the job. Can you imagine how disappointing? He had gone to school. He had done everything he needed to get a great education. He goes to get this job, and all he's doing is shoveling coal into the engine and putting oil on the wheel bearings. Let's see how Elijah solves that problem. The steam locomotive was exciting. People called it the Iron Horse. It was a fire-breathing monster. When it had a head of steam, it was faster than a horse and buggy. Feeding coal into the firebox was hot, hard work. It was also tricky. The fire boiled the water. The boiling water made steam. The steam worked the machinery. If the fire got too hot, the boiler might explode. If it wasn't hot enough, the train wouldn't move. Or it couldn't even climb the smallest hill. Elijah went to work in old clothes. An ashcat's job was a dirty one. Soon, Elijah was covered in soot and cinders. How do you think he's feeling about his job? He's probably pretty disappointed. Let's see what he does about it. A boy was under the train. His clothes smelled of oil. "That's your grease monkey," said the boss. "He'll oil the places you can't get to." A grease monkey was paid pennies a day. At night, he slept on the train's grimy floor. The work was dangerous, and boys often got hurt or worse. So see, there's Elijah, and then that's the grease monkey under the train. There has to be a safer way, thought Elijah. Elijah bailed in the coal as fast as he could. Sweat poured down his face. His hands were raw. The water in the boiler took time to heat up. While Elijah bailed, the grease monkey clambered around, oiling. Finally, the train was tanked up, ready for its run. Page 84. The engine huffed and puffed. Smoke billowed from its stack. The wheels clacked. The locomotive chugged along for about half an hour. Chug, chug, chug. Suddenly, screech! The train stopped cold. The boy hopped down and crawled under the wheels. Elijah hopped down with his oil can. The passengers stayed put. They waited. And waited some more. "All aboard!" cried the conductor. The pig was greased and ready to go. Chug, chug, chug. The passengers looked out at the passing farms. They talked. They ate. They laughed. Half an hour later, screech! Time to grease the pig again. Can you imagine? Every half an hour, this train stops because they got to put more oil on the wheels or something else. What a job! Elijah didn't know which part he hated more, feeding the firebox or oiling the engine. Right? This train is so slow because they have to keep stopping. Page 86. The train's metal parts needed oil to work smoothly. Without oil, the parts would stick and wear down. The train would stop. While Elijah scooped coal, his mind sparked with ideas. Could he invent an oil cup that oiled the engine while the train was running? Every night after work, Elijah made drawings. Finally, he had a drawing of an oil cup he knew would work. Do you think that was easy, or do you think that took a lot of hard work for him to come up with that drawing? It probably took a lot of hard work. His first idea probably wasn't the one he ended up with, right? He had to keep revising it and coming up with a new idea until he had one that he thought would be really good. Let's look at page 87. It took 2 years for Elijah to make a model of his oil cup. In 1872, he applied for a patent to protect his invention. Then he took the metal cup to work. Right? A patent is something that Elijah can then say, "I came up with this." Somebody else can't come along and say, "Oh no, that was my idea first," because Elijah got a patent. Okay? And a lot of times when people are inventing things, they get patents for these different things. They could be different ideas, different products, nowadays it could be different software, all sorts of different things. Okay? But patents are important so that somebody who came up with something can claim credit for it. "There's a hole here to let the oil drip out," Elijah told the boss. "It drips oil when oil is needed. It drips where it's needed. It's simple. Why not give it a try?" Surprisingly, the boss agreed. Why do you think that surprised? Well, remember how the boss treated Elijah at first. He said, "You can't do anything. You just shove oil into that, or shove coal into the locomotive." But now, the boss decided to give Elijah a shot. "Just for the Kalamazoo run," added the boss gruffly. The train rumbled off, headed for Kalamazoo, Michigan. The engine huffed and puffed. Smoke billowed from its stack. The wheels clacked. The train chugged along for half an hour. Chug, chug, chug. Everyone wondered when the train would stop. But it didn't. It chugged along for another half an hour. And another. Elijah McCoy's oil cup worked. It oiled the engine while the train was running. The train reached Kalamazoo in record time. The grease monkey was safe, and Elijah was happy. Elijah McCoy's oil cup made train travel faster and safer. Elijah worked on engine inventions all his life. He followed his dream. When Elijah got older, he encouraged children to stay in school and follow their dreams too. Now, at the end of our story, we've got a little extra note. Sometimes these are called sidebars, sometimes they're called endnotes. This one's more like an endnote because it's way at the end here. Sorry, you can't see that. There you go. So, the real McCoy. Have you ever heard someone say they want the real McCoy? I haven't, but apparently that's what people say. And here's what they mean when they say it. It means they want the real thing. No knockoffs, no substitutes. Other inventors copied Elijah McCoy's oil cup, but their drip cups didn't work as well. When engineers wanted to make sure they got the best oil cup, they asked for the real McCoy. Was Elijah McCoy a one-hit wonder? Meaning, was this the only thing he ever invented? No way. He was an inventing marvel. During his lifetime, he filed 57 patents, more than any other black inventor. Most of his inventions had to do with engines, but several did not. Elijah invented a portable iron board, a lawn sprinkler, and even a better rubber heel for shoes. Want the best quality? Ask for the real McCoy. Excellent. Thanks for reading your Big Book story along with me today. We are going to get going on our worksheet for today to review some of our reading strategies for this week. All right. Looks like this. Let me get this under my dot camera and today, let's get going on our Unit 1, Week 4 worksheet. Make sure you've got your name at the top. Let's read a little bit of story, and then we got 6 questions to answer about it. Well, let's get going. Dr. Martin Cooper was born in 1928. He went to college as well as served as a submarine officer in the Korean War. Man, that sounds important. Went to college, served as a submarine officer. With a degree in electrical engineering, another engineer, Martin's mind was a spinning top, always thinking of new ideas. The invention that Martin is most well known for is the cellular phone. He first came up with the idea in 1973 while working for Motorola. Martin made the first cell phone call on April 3rd, 1973. When asked what inspired Martin to create the cellular phone, he said he was inspired by Dick Tracy's wrist radio. It took several decades after Martin's demonstration, but eventually, cell phones became popular enough to cause a decrease in landline phones. Number 1, how do you know that this passage is a biography? Remember, biographies are true stories about a person's life. Who is this a true story about? Well, it's a true story about Martin, right? Dr. Martin Cooper. Dr. Cooper and his invention. Notice my sentence starts with a capital letter and ends with a period. Number 2 says, write a question that can be answered in this passage. So this is all about the invention of the cell phone. Remember, we want to ask and answer questions because that helps us understand the text more, helps us engage our brains as we're thinking about what we're reading. So, what question can be answered in this passage? Maybe the question you want to know is, when was the first cell phone created? When was the first cell phone call made? All right, that one you could answer with this. When was the first cell phone call made? It's a question. Questions end with question marks. Make sure your W is capital because we start with our sentences with a capital letter. Number 3 says, what is the answer to that question? What's the answer to that question? When was the first cell phone call made? First cell phone call was made on April 3rd, 1973. If you wrote a different question than me, make sure you answer your question, not mine. Number 4 says, what caused a decrease in landline phones? Reread to find that answer. Remember, if you read close to the end of the story, it says eventually cell phones became so popular that they showed a decrease in landline phones. All right, so that would be your answer for number 4. Make sure you got it with a complete sentence, capital letter, and an end mark. Pause the video if you're not done with 4 yet, because I'm moving on to number 5. Number 5 says, in the metaphor, Martin's mind was a spinning top. What 2 things are being compared? All right, a top and Martin's mind. Right, so a top is the thing that you spin and it spins around and around and around. Right? His mind is compared to that because his mind is just spinning, coming up with all these great new ideas. And then number 6, what new idea did Martin come up with? What is the main idea of this passage? What's the new thing that he came up with? Make sure you write your answer for number 6. Use a capital letter. Use an end mark. Make sure that your sentence makes complete sense. Excellent. When you are done with our reading class for today. Please make sure you put that sheet back in your folder so that it can be kept safe and I can get an awesome grade for you into GradeLink. Thanks and have a great rest of your day.